What up? We're here.
Are we
We're doing the
live?
thing. We are live on YouTube. I have just posted it on the gram that we're live with the link to the live show. There's a cat in the chat.
There's two cats. The other one will probably step on my keyboard and mess something up. So
I want to get a skate park cat so bad, but I feel like the landlord might get pissed. But I had a major, I don't know how much you follow the channel these days, but I have had a major rat problem this whole winter at the skate park. It's like a nightmare, dude. Like whole legions of rats. And then the traps wouldn't catch the rats. And then when I finally caught the rats with different traps, it's because the rats were so big they wouldn't fit in the first rat traps I got. Like these things were like small cats. It was crazy. Unbelievable. Oh, geez, I'm pressing all the wrong buttons here. Yeah, so this is episode 89 with Jayden Mucha, longtime piece of the BFS family.
hello, everybody.
Is this our first show streaming at 9? I think it is, because last week we got a late start. How you doing?
Good. You know, just chugging along, trying to ride, trying to weld stuff.
That's sick.
You know,
What's the weather like down there in Austin, Texas? Is it starting to get pretty damn hot?
not yet. It's like 80s, 90s right now.
That's pretty warm.
It's funny. It's funny through the whole winter. I would always text my dad and be like, "Hey, it's 80 degrees," and he's like, "Fuck you."
We've had a really spring has only kind of sprung out here. It's been cool and kind of rainy. We've only had like one or two really warm days. I think I wore shorts once so far. So
you get that classic Rochester psych out.
Well, this past weekend was like it rained like the whole weekend, and I had a great weekend at the skate park. I think I did like 50 something people on Saturday, which is like incredible for May. It's like super good.
Awesome.
I did like $1,600 or $1,700 on both Saturday and Sunday, which those are great weekend days, like any time of year. So that's super helpful to get into like May is typically one of the slowest months of the year. And for me to have like a really good weekend, that's just killer, super killer.
Mm-hmm. It's
all right.
Rain.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is Jayden Mucha. You've been here from the beginning.
Yeah.
We go way back. I made like your first real edit. You were in some of the vlogs back in the day, going way back on the channel. I always, when people talk about how good you are at riding, I'm always like, I taught him everything he knows, you know. I always tell people,
it is funny though, like your the video that we filmed together is like still one of the only videos that I've ever put out, you know. Like I've done a few with John, but the one that me and you made is like forever going to be my favorite, I think.
Because man, it was just different. That was the tail end of working on a video project to put out. Now it's more like, you know, the gram and TikTok and whatnot.
Yeah, it's literally all Instagram now.
Yeah.
It's weird because like still it's like you don't want to post your best stuff on Instagram, but like where else are you gonna put it? You know? It's like right? you could like take 6 months to try and film a video part, but then you're lacking on the social media front, you know?
Yeah, so. I think there's ways it could be done. I think you can post like chill social media content and like recycle, because there's just so much content out there. I feel like people don't notice when you recycle, but you can go out one day and film 4 clips and post and edit, and then keep the good one or the 2, and then later drop a compilation, and then maybe that compilation goes to YouTube. And there's ways to do it. I haven't really been riding or filming in this landscape. When I stopped making videos, it was quite a while ago. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's still people that think DVDs are the thing, but I mean, all the scooter kids think filming on VXs is cool again.
Hey, I think it's cool.
The only people that think that's cool are people that never had to capture tapes. If you like a VX that has like the digital converter, that's pretty cool. It's just capturing tapes and dealing with tapes was such a pain in the butt.
Yeah, because we filmed our video on a VX, right?
No, that was a HPX. That was this camera. Hold on, right here.
Nice.
This is a Panasonic HPX 170. I think so. HPX 170p. So this was right in between it. So this is digital, but it filmed on P2 cards, which are these, for those who are listening, if we're on the video, it's like this gigantic, weird memory card. So the camera right before this one was like a hybrid that did both. And my first camera, which is right here, this is a DVX 100. So it looks pretty similar, albeit older. That was like the Panasonic competitor to the VX. And then that turned into HPX. And the HPX, the first HPX was tape or card. And then that one was like fully card. And then eventually they went to like full, like new digital, whatever. But like, God, filming on tapes was such a pain in the balls because like the tapes could get screwed up and you could lose the footage. When you had to capture footage, you had to sit there and play back the whole tape and then hit. That's, you know, when people like film and they put their hand in front of the camera marking it because they'd be sitting there fast forwarding through the tape. And when they see the hand, they'd pause, rewind, play it again. Yep, that's a good clip. Rewind again, hit play, hit record. And then it would record the tape onto your computer. And then you'd save the clip and then go back to it. So if you had a 60-minute tape, like you're going to spend 60 minutes on the computer trying to capture all the footage. And then you would use like a soccer mom camera to capture the footage because you don't want to like wear out the heads or whatever on the regular whatever. But
yeah, I prefer my iPhone iMovie.
What's so fun? It's so funny because the phones are so good. The phone quality video is really so good. It's like silly that people go out of their way. They're like, I got this VX. And I was like, coming from someone who filmed on that for years, it's like, that sucks. They don't even look good. Like, you could film on anything and probably download like a preset that's going to make your footage look washed out like a VX and think it's cool. I always like the Panasonics because they had better audio than the VXs, and they had way better color than the VXs. But people like the VX 1000 because it had better colors, but the VX 2100 had the better low light. Yeah. But that's all a thing of the past now anyway. All right, anyway. So what we're going to do in this episode is the first half, we're going to kind of just talk about your career in BMX because you're like a pro rider or something like that, or tried to be, or I don't know, you could phrase it however you want to phrase it. The second half, we're going to go back in time and talk about the whole like you riding BMX as a little kid and rasp into the BFS. So it's kind of like where you were, and then we're going to go back in time. And then if have you ever watched any of our podcasts or listened to any of them? Oh yeah. Cool. Yeah. So in the middle, we do a little like break where we talk about something somewhat social or political. Okay. So for the most part, I kind of already asked this. You're in Austin. How are you? Yeah. How is living in Austin? In 2010, I was going to move to Austin, or I was going to move to Rochester, and I chose to come here because Austin was like the BMX capital back then. It's still like a BMX hotspot. But so what's the BMX scene like in Rochester? Or sorry, in Austin?
It's pretty good. I mean, it's mostly like street riders, like Matt Nordstrom and Brett Silva. But then you also got Chase and his ramp.
That looks awesome.
Which is like typically where I ride. Dude, it's so much fun. Like, it's probably 15 minutes from my house now. So like anytime I'm like just want to ride, that's pretty much where I go because I'm like 30 minutes outside the city. But
okay.
Yeah. Austin's pretty sick. Like you can go to House Park any time of the day, like any day, and there will be like 1 or 2 or 3 BMX riders there. It's like it's a pretty big community, but it's pretty tight knit.
Okay. Yeah, I spent 2 weeks in Austin, Texas before I moved here. I moved here in May, and then I think in January maybe, because my buddy Brett Taco was living down there, and we spent 2 weeks. It was freaking awesome. It was almost like my last like big BMX trip before I try to get a real job and move on. And I'll tell you a funny Austin story. So Odyssey used to be based in Austin. And it was kind of weird because the warehouse was in California, but full factory distribution was set up in Austin. And that's where Jim C was down there, and Bobby, who's formerly was in Rochester working at Kink, and Logan, who moved back to Chicago and started Let's Roast, which his shop just closed. But that's why he left, because he was, both Bobby and Logan were Midwest guys. They ended up in Austin. They were running full factory. Was it the first time I went to Austin? I think it was the first time I went to Austin. I stayed at their house, and it was all these Midwest dudes. You know, Chris Markham, do you know him?
Maybe if I saw him.
You know, so basically Logan was like, hey, I'm quitting my job here at Odyssey. I'm moving back to Austin. I'm opening a bike shop. Do you want my life? It's like basically what he said. He was like, you can take over. You can get my job as the warranty guy at Odyssey Sunday. You could take my bedroom and my spot in this lease. And I was like, I'm about to move to Austin. Like, this is it. Like, and then when he told them he was, leaving the job, they moved his position from Austin to California, where Odyssey is based, like where the warehouse is or whatever. And so they told me, hey, you could still have the job. You just have to move to California, not Austin, Texas. And I was like, I don't know about that. California seems far and expensive.
Yeah, it's far expensive and big.
So if Odyssey kept the warranty job in Austin, there would have been no Dave in Rochester and no BFS and no podcast right now.
Yeah, that probably would have stopped my career.
BMX butterfly effect.
Yeah.
All right, so moving along. You were living out in California as well, right?
Yeah, so we're like, do you want to start like in Rochester and then kind of move through to now?
We could just stick with I'm just trying to build some resolution around your post Rochester BMX career, because you were living with Dennis Anderson, right?
Yeah, I was living with him for.
He was like the basically top 3 best bike riders ever, right?
I know, that was crazy. I lived with him for like 7 months, and it was kind of funny like how that came about. So I was like, I wanted to move to San Diego because the BMX scene there is like awesome, you know, and there's tons of stuff to ride. So I hit him up and I was kind of like, hey, like what parts of San Diego should I look at, you know, trying to find like the cheapest rent but like not like a dangerous area. And he was like, opening up if you want it. And like me and Dennis, we knew each other, you know, from like the Vans contests and just like riding in general. But we had never like really spent any time together, or we didn't really know each other. And when he offered me that, I was like, you know, like my mind kind of blew a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
And I was like, absolutely. I'm there, you know? And then, so I was there for like 7 months, pretty much riding with him. That was like right when he started his like YouTube channel. So that was fun. But
he's really good.
San Diego's
biker.
Cool. Dude, insane. Like I was there for like the second half of him filming for the Vans integration video.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And like, you know that one clip where he does it's like a gap to rail. It's like a 15 flat 15 and he does gap to crook. Dude, he went up and did the gap to pegs, and it was me, Chad Curley, and I forget who else was there, but we saw the gap to pegs and we all started freaking out,
And he was like, I'm not done.
You did it. And then he like doesn't even stop, rides back up to the top, and then gap to crooks, and just like first try.
So who's better, Garrett or Dennis?
I can't answer that.
Dude, it's so hard. I'm biased because like Garrett's from Jersey and I've known Garrett since he was like 10 or 11 or something. But man, Dennis, and both of them, their riding has aged so well. They're like fine wine. They're like, it's almost like they're better than ever.
Yeah.
So crazy.
I feel like they're both just at a different level, but like in a different way. Like Dennis does all the big, gnarly, like gap to pegs and huge roof drops, and it's just like his precision on like a large scale is like the best. And then Garrett is just like can maneuver or do anything on the bike he wants to, like way better than anybody. Like he's so much more technically like strong than anyone I've ever seen.
Garrett used to go huge, but it's probably wise of him to. I don't know. How old is Dennis? They've got to be close in age.
I think Dennis is 32.
Because at a certain point, like some of those big crazy stuff is like the juice isn't worth the squeeze as you start to get older, like especially if you're already the best rider ever. It's like I'm not going to go truck driver a 25 stair so I could say I did it. It's like I already did it,
Yeah. I mean, even I'm like starting to feel like that, It's like I find myself when I'm like standing on top of something or I'm like about to go in, I'm like, is this really worth it? Because if I get hurt, I can't weld, I can't make money. And it's like trying to weigh that, like trying to scare yourself, but also trying to have a level head and not get injured.
I've been saying this for years. For the most part, being a pro rider is not, the juice is almost never worth the squeeze, especially if you're like really, really good and you're going high and fast and like with the speeds you're going, like those, like if you, the kind of stuff I did on a bike, if I have a bad crash, it could only be so bad. I'm only a foot off the ground. The math is different when you're doing like big boy tricks, and it's like these kids will be out there trying to get sponsored, thinking they want to be sponsored, thinking like they made it if they can get to the point where they make $200 a month or whatever with no health insurance, film it, killing themselves, filming a video. It's like, ugh, that's, we talked a little bit before the show about like, I want to talk to you about your sponsorship history. We talked with Jack last week and Tanner, because I like people most kids have like zero conception of what it's like to actually be sponsored, and it's like, well, it's weird because it's as we said earlier, it's very vague with the brands a lot of times, and it's almost like they strategically don't define it, so they're not like kept. To they don't want to give you too much and they don't want too much, but they hope you might become really popular. So it's just not all sunshine and rainbows. Like kids think they just put a brand in their bio on Instagram and they made it,
Yeah. I mean, when I was younger and remember I was riding the Bantam frame.
Yeah.
It was like a Kink Bantam frame. It was their first like 18-inch frame, but like a good one, like just
that came up last week on the podcast because Jack was riding an 18-inch Kink Complete, but it was before the Bantam stuff came out.
Yeah. So the Bantam stuff was really when I kind of felt like maybe I could like get sponsored or like be a part of Kink in some way, because at that point I like knew all the guys, I knew everybody who worked there, and obviously being like a Rochester local where Kink is based helped too, But I mean that's like the best place to be, is to be like in the space where you're learning and progressing and trying to get sponsored. That was like the most fun time on my bike. Like if I could go back to that, I would, you know,
Of course.
because once you get the sponsorship, it don't get me wrong, like it's a freaking great feeling, and to like be supported and know that like you're actually good at what you're doing, you know. But it can turn into kind of like a task, you know. I mean, when I was writing for Kink Flow, I didn't really have any like they didn't have any standards for me or like things that I had to do. It was just kind of like, hey, we like your riding. We're going to put you on the flow team and kind of watch you grow and progress. And that's kind of what I think the point of a flow team is to kind of build a connection with a rider and just see where they take it, you know. And then AM, it becomes a little bit more serious. When I got to the AM team, they had like a few guidelines for me. It was basically I had to post on Instagram like 4 times a month, and then obviously like rep all of the kink parts and the kink clothes, and then just like show up at contests and stuff like that. But it is very vague. Like there's not a ton of communication between like the management and the riders as far as like what do you expect out of the Instagram posts? Like what quality Instagram posts do you want? You know, like, do you want me to try and promote a product, or do you want me to just post a clip and not say anything, you know? And like really the only guidance that I had was like just make your posts and tag us, you know? And it was almost like I felt like I could be doing more, but I didn't really know like what else to do at that point, you know? Because I mean that was still pretty early on Instagram. Like, like you like could start posting videos on Instagram now, you know?
I remember when that happened.
Photos, yeah. So I think it was kind of like a shock to everybody, like kind of a shift in the industry where before like the companies were promoting the riders, and then it kind of shifted to the riders promoting the company. You know?
I talk about this on the show all the time. This was the major shift in the decentralization of action sports.
Yeah. And I mean, you get to now and it's like people can scroll all day and see the craziest thing, like one after another. And you have to try and figure out a way to like stand out of the crowd.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
For context, how old are you now?
22.
How old are you when you first started getting like hooked up, helped, flowed from Kink, however you want to define that?
I think I was 11 or 12.
And at what point did they put you, when you got bumped up to the AM team, how old were you then?
I think I was 14. Or no, 14. The AM team was probably more like 16 or 17.
Okay.
And that's kind of when they started like paying for flights to get to like the Vans contests or to get to go on trips, you know. Like I think the first trip that I went on, I was 15 and it was to Boston. And we rode like Rye Airfield and
how did that work? So would they tell you like go to this contest, or would you go to them and be like, hey, I'm going to go to this contest? Like how would those conversations, like how did those situations arise?
Yeah, well, for me it was kind of a different situation because I had kind of made connections like throughout the industry, so it wasn't necessarily always coming from Kink. Like if they wanted me to do something, they would recommend it and suggest it to me, and I would obviously do it, you know. But I really like the first contest that I ever rode. It was a Nitro Circus Unclicked. It was what it was called. It was me, Nathan Hallahan, Iñaki from Brazil, and then Kieran Riley. And we were all like invited to, you know, that CA training facility, the Concrete Indoor Bowl in California.
Oh yes, I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like the first contest that I ever rode, and it was against those four, and we were competing for a spot to ride in the actual Nitro World Games competition, you know. And I won, like I got the slot, and then a few months later, I was like in the park with freaking Logan Martin, Kevin Peraza, you know, like Dennis, all the big crazy names, and I think I was 15 or 16, and I got last place. Or no, I got second to last place because Kenneth Tencio crashed both of his runs on the first trick.
All right.
So, so that was like my first contest experience. And it was crazy, like meeting all those pros that you've like looked up to your whole life, you know. But there I met Kyle Carlson, and he's always been a pretty big influence on me. He's the one who, at that contest, he was like, I bet you would do well at the Vans Pro Cups, you know. So I looked into it. I was talking to like Jay and Kink and basically being like, hey, I think this is something that I want to do. Like, can you get me there? You know, so they Kink paid for flights. And then I started going to all the Vans Pro Cup stops, and that was fun. And I think that was kind of where I started making like a name for myself in the sport, as far as like being someone who's like not like super well known, but someone who's kind of like known in the sport, you know. Like that's where I met all of like the industry people and kind of made all my connections. But
I remember one of those ones. I remember there was I think there was a live stream. I seem to remember having a live stream on at the here at the skate park while you were riding, and like everyone was like, "That's Jayden, that's Jayden."
Yeah, I think that was probably the first one I went to, which was Malaga in Spain, Rubens Park. Yeah, that was a pretty interesting and cool experience, because I went there having never like ridden one of these contests before. So I started all the way in like the qualifier, you know. So I went qualifier, semifinal, and then qualifier final. And I think I got second or third in the qualifier final, which like put me into the actual Pro Cup. And then I went through like the actual Pro Cup qualification. I made it to the semifinal, and then I made it to the final. and this was over the course of like 2 days, you know. So
This
2
sounds
days
like
of
a
like
lot of
constant,
riding.
yeah, it was insane. Like,
Like,
so
I'm
it was
tired
like
just
it was
hearing
pretty much
it.
2 days. Yeah, like 2 days of constant like contest runs, which are like 60-second runs, pretty close together. I think each like heat that I made it through, I had to do like 3 runs. So by the end of it, like I had my freaking line dialed, you know, but I was so tired. And I think like there was this flare gap that I really wanted to do that like nobody else had done yet. And it was like my last run of the last day, and I was exhausted, and I just ate shit, you know. But that was cool. And then after that, I just kept going, and eventually it was the last stop that they ever had. I made it into like the actual Pro Tour, which was like the top 20 riders like of the event. And then right after that, COVID hit, and they canceled the whole event. And never did it again.
Does it still
But
exist?
that was a really good
Did
time.
it start back up post-COVID?
They did. They didn't do they haven't done the Vans Pro Cup, but they did the Vans Waffle Cup,
Okay.
which was kind of a mix between like a street and a park event. But yeah, that contest was so cool, because it gave like riders like me who like to go high and like not do as many tail whips or bar spins. It gave us like a pretty big platform for like that type of like style rider, and not like trick monkey rider, you know.
Trick monkey, huh?
I don't know.
I never heard
I don't mean that in a negative way.
Okay. That's pretty awesome. I remember just everyone in Rochester was like just so pumped that you were like out there at these like big events, like because I mean we've talked about this a bunch on the show, like 10 years ago here, like when I first moved here, the BMX scene was like just so big. There was just so much momentum behind
huge.
all of it. It was so like we're so far from that now, but everyone was always so pumped on you. Like he made it out. He did it.
Yeah, I remember like when RASP was like nearing its end and then BFS was opening on bike night, there'd be like 30, 35 bikers there.
Yeah.
You know?
Bike night's still pretty good, but now there's a lot of dirt jumpers that come. The mountain bike scene here is pretty strong. And
yeah, I've seen that. I think because of like Pinnacle Hill.
Yeah, the Pinnacle scene. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really put my finger on any particular thing why the dirt jumping scene has kind of blossomed here a little bit, but it's good because I had all these big jumps here. Well, they're not that big, but bigger jumps here. And for a long time, there was like literally nobody riding them. Yeah. And then now there's like a decent dirt jumper scene.
Hell yeah.
So,
I mean,
that's
it's
cool.
Indoor dirt jumps, you know?
Yeah. So you were on Kink for a while. You've had a couple other, brands you're either sponsored with or hooked up with. Were you ever technically pro, or were you just like kind of hooked up here and there?
So on Kink, I was never pro. That's it's not the reason that I left. But I mean, obviously being on like the AM team, and I think I was on the AM team for 2 or 3 years at this point. And they basically started asking me to do more and like take on other sponsorships, basically. Like, you know how I do the shadow riding gear, like pads. So they're still one of my sponsors, but basically Kink was the one who's like set that up, and they wanted me to basically take them on as another sponsor, and I just like asked like, well, what are they going to do for me, you know? And it was pretty much just like free pads and a free helmet, which is fine. I'm not going to like complain about that, you know. But I was like, man, I wonder, like, do you think like I'll ever get a paycheck? You know, it was like one of my questions, and I was basically told like you won't get a paycheck until you have like a pro frame sponsor, and they said that's not going to happen for a long time. And I was like, all right.
And who said this to you? Shadow Pads?
No, Kink said this. Kink said this to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So like my bike sponsor basically told me I'm not going to be pro for them for a long time. And that kind of hurt, you know. After
it already been 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and like my whole riding career was with Kink, you know. Like I started on a Kink from like the age I was 6 years old until I can't remember when I left. I think I was 18 or 19. But, you know, like I had been sponsored by Kink, like at the flow team and the A team for, I think, like 8 years at that point. And to like hear that, like to just be like, yeah, you're not going to get a paycheck, you're not going to be pro. It just kind of sucked, you know. Like I felt like I was like, I was going somewhere. I had like started gaining like a following on Instagram, which I know like the companies love. I was riding all these contests and doing pretty well.
Did they tell you anything as to why that was? They say you can't have this until this, but these are the things you can do. There was no, okay.
No, there was none of that. It was just kind of like the same guidelines that I'd always had. Like make sure you make your Instagram posts, rep our parts, you know, and that was like pretty much all the guidance that I had. Mm-hmm. But.
Yeah, I mean, and part of that's just business, you know. I don't want to make it sound like we're just over here poo-pooing on Kink or whatever. And like someone could make that because we had Tanner on, and you know his experience also was similar. But it's just business. Like we don't know. Like you and I don't know what happens behind the scenes. We don't know, with
Yeah.
between the brand manager and the team manager, and like what their long-term goals are, and like you don't know, like that, like that TM is just trying to do, the best job with how his job is defined.
Oh yeah. I mean, Kink was great. Like they gave me like travel budget and got me to all the contests. So I have like nothing but thanks for them. It was just like
that's really cool. I didn't know they did all that for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like a point in my career where I was still trying to like, I was really ambitious about like turning pro and like making something happen, that I was like basically like hearing that like I won't be pro kind of, I don't know, it just like brought me down.
Well, yeah, that would of course that would sting.
Yeah, it stung. I was like, damn, like I'd rather kind of be like a free agent than be
100%.
somewhere where I feel like I can't progress,
Yeah,
But
the Kink
again,
was
like
definitely...
I said, like I have no bad blood with Kink. Everybody there is awesome and they kill it.
You were always kind of a weird fit with Kink because they didn't really have many riders like you. And I always felt, and I brought this up in the Tanner episode, it seemed to me like they were sponsoring you and Tanner almost like a defensive sponsorship. Like they didn't want someone else to come into their backyard and hook up a rider who's right there in their town. So it's like, we better help this local guy out. Maybe he'll be a valuable asset one day, but also like, you could think a hypothetical where, say, Fit or Cold or someone else comes to Rochester. Let's hook up the best 3 young riders right in Kink's backyard. Like that'd be like a little jab in the side from one company to another. That's what it seemed like.
I think it might have like started out like that, and just because like we were in Rochester and knew everybody and like became, I mean, Rochester was a tight knit little BMX city, especially with Kink being there. It's like everybody knows everybody. And I feel like me and Tanner, man, Tanner is so good.
So good.
He is so good.
Has aged like fine wine.
I know. It's like, I wish he would like post more so that I could see his riding,
Dude, he's like, he's got like that buttery smoothness like Jake Petruchik has, but more like flowy, jumpy. Like,
yeah,
watching Tanner ride is like, it's like listening to classical music. It's so good.
He has like some of the best bike control ever. Like he can get in or out of any situation.
Yes, yes, it's so good.
Yeah. I remember when we were younger, like we kind of always like pushed each other, and he was always like way more technical than me. And I'm like, man, I wish I could do that. And he would kind of like push me out of my comfort zone to like try something that I never would have thought of to do on my own, because I just always wanted to like jump the biggest thing, or, like I didn't really care about tricks until I started riding contests and was like, oh, I guess tricks are important,
I forgot how crazy good Tanner was when he was younger. I mean, he's still good, but in that trick sense, I like forgot that he was doing like 3 whips and trucks over giant box jumps, and like he was just trick machine. He could do all of it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would like do a 3 whip and then I would do a T-bog behind him.
Yeah. So post Kink, you hooked up here or there or whatever. Like once you're in the industry, once you know people, like there's always someone, oh, here's a bike frame or whatever, You bounce around a little bit.
So,
anything ever work out for you afterwards?
So when I left Kink, it was probably 2 months after I left Kink, but you know how Chase Hawk and Aaron Ross are like affiliated with Burnslow. Well, they kind of like hooked me up with Burnslow, and I went on like my first Burnslow trip, and that was to Colorado, and we like filmed a video, and that was just like so much fun because that had like such a different vibe than like any other like video trips that I've been on, because it was like everybody's like just there because they're friends, you know, and they're just riding and like having a good time, and then the clips and the footage is like a byproduct of having a good time and having fun with your friends.
Yeah, it's just organic.
Yeah, whereas like the trips that I'd been on previously, it's like you feel like the pressure, like you have to get these clips and we have to put out this video. It's just a different vibe, you know. And I really like that like organic style of, hey, like this would be cool to do. I want to try this, and then like your friends are like, yeah, dude, you got it. I'll film it, you know. Whereas like the other side of that is like going out and like forcing yourself to do something that you're like not 100% stoked on, you know. And I mean, I definitely had trips like that with Kink. Like one of the last trips that I went on was with Dan, and we went to San Diego and we're filming with Fudger for 2 weeks, and that was like one of the best trips ever, you know, because it was just like me and Dan and Nathan, and we're all boys, and we were just like going to skate parks every day or like going to different spots every day and just having a good time, and the filming was a byproduct of the good time. So, but yeah, so it was Burn Slow, and then after that first Burn Slow video came out, no, I think, yeah, it was like after the first Burn Slow video came out, and I had like moved away from Austin and was living in San Diego, and Empire reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to ride for us? And I was like, hell yeah, you know, because Empire is it's just a cool bike shop. Like they're basically like an online distributor, but they have like a bike shop storefront, and they're based in Austin. And I've always loved their team. Like what was it? Like Empire Bad Idea. It's like
great video.
My favorite video ever, you know? So I was like, that video like has the best music. It's like all the weird music that you don't really associate with BMX.
Yeah. That was a good video. All their videos are great.
Oh yeah. So at that
Chill
point
Bro
it was just
iconic.
Oh yeah. But
Chase Hawk's part, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. Oh my God. Whenever I hear that song.
Yeah, so Empire, it was Burn Slow and Empire. And Empire was really cool to me because I didn't have like a parts or frame sponsor. So I could it was like the first time in my riding career that I rode something other than a Kink. So I went crazy, you know, like I had like Odyssey parts, I had profile parts, I had a Sunday frame, I had Kink parts on my bike. Like I pretty much had a jumble of like every bike company on my bike. And it was okay because I was riding for Empire and not like a specific parts or frame company. So that was fun. And that's like how it is right now, you know?
Well, it's a tough time. Like nobody's getting hooked up right now. Everyone's struggling.
I mean, I'm not even like, I'm not even trying anymore. Like to me, like the whole sponsorship thing, it became a chore. Like the Instagram post, you have to post 4 times a month, and that like to me that became a chore to me. And like I found myself only going to the skate park to film a clip, and then if I didn't film a clip, it was like a bad session and I would have a bad day. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before it was like I was going to the skate park and just having fun trying to learn stuff or ride with friends, and then if I did something cool I would film it, you know. So it kind of switched for me, and that like I don't know, that just like burnt me out. But while I was riding for like Burn Slow and Empire, their like requirements were like way less, you know. And it gives you like more freedom and less pressure, and I feel like that's where I thrive, you know.
Totally. I get it. I was never sponsored, but part of that was because my opinion was never for sale. But that's just me. Um, um, this is like, I don't know. I know I've known you and I've known your dad for a long time, so I know that you guys going into it, you probably had different expectations, or at least were going to these companies and asking for expectations. Like, and we talked about that on the Tanner episode and everything. So like maybe your experience might be a little bit different than other people's, but it sounds like your experience being sponsored was pretty congruent with many other people's accounts that I've heard.
Yeah. I mean, it has really high highs, but it also has some drawbacks, like the added pressure to the thing that you just love and have fun doing.
Oh, I mean, I totally can relate because like this owning the skate park has to some degree sucked the life out of riding to me because it's like I'm here all the time. It's my entire life. I'm making videos about it every day now. It's like when I'm not working, I don't want to. I went to the new Greece skate park yesterday, so that was pretty cool. But generally, I'm like, had enough. But anyway, my question was going to be, well, you may have handled it better than some people. If you could go back in time, would you have done anything differently with your, with sponsorships and the way it went and your whole trajectory? Like, would you change anything? Like,
I don't really think so. I mean, I feel like my journey has been a lot of fun, and it's afforded me a lot of like cool opportunities and like cool places that I've been to. So I don't necessarily think I would change anything. I mean, I loved living in Austin for the time that I was like here in my van, and then I loved being in San Diego for that time, and then moving back to Austin. Like I was never at first. I was kind of like chasing the sponsorship and being like and just being hungry for it, and super ambitious. And then after I don't know, after a while, it just kind of started burning me out. And I don't know, like at the end of when I was living in San Diego was when Fly hit me up and they were like, hey, like we want to like put you on the pro team. And I was like, in my head, I was stoked about it. I was like, dang, this is like my dream ever since I was a kid. And then there was another part of me that was like, you've been through the sponsorship thing already. Like you know how it works, like the added pressure it puts on you, and like, and I knew like it could drag me down, as far as having fun on my bike and just enjoying it for what it is. But I said yes, because it was cool, and yeah, I rode for them for I think 8 months, and then they just like couldn't pay me anymore. So I just was like, all right, like, thank you guys, and just moved on because I like to ride what I like to ride, and I didn't want to like have anything like holding me to one thing anymore, because it was just like that was probably where I was the most burnt out and was riding only like once every 2 weeks, and then
well, I'm not going to ask you what they paid you, but as like someone new to a team, what do you think like the average? I imagine it's like a month. Is it? It's like a monthly payment. Is it like how does it typically work? Okay.
It's a monthly thing. I was getting paid $500 a month, which
Okay.
is that's like pretty industry
Is that
standard.
American or Spanish?
American.
Okay. They weren't paying you in, I don't know what the Spanish, in euros. They use euros in Spain. Like, what am I going to do with these euros?
Bones. They're paying me in yen. No, but yeah, it was $500 a month, which I was like, okay, I wasn't going to complain, but I also like, it was $500 a month, like anybody making 500 a month needs a job on top of that to
Yeah.
live, you know?
Because I was gonna say like you don't even have to be that good at riding, and you can do content creation, and you can get to the point where you can make $500 a month without those sorts of obligations. And assuming you like what you do, like it's not that far out of the reach. If you go into content creation like it's a business, and you know you're strategic about it, like that's a pretty attainable goal of making $500 a month.
Yeah, like if I were to like tell somebody like who's hungry to be pro and to be sponsored, I would tell them to like have a plan B and like have something else that you like that is like income that is going to generate you income, because like you can't live off of like a BMX you can't live off being a pro BMX rider unless you're Garrett Reynolds or Dennis Anderson or like one of those top names that's been in the sport forever, you know? Because I mean, 500 a month is pretty standard as far as I know for like probably 80% of the BMX population. Like their sponsors are probably paying them 500 a month. It's like 500 to 1,000 a month. Like you'd be surprised like how many of like some of the biggest names in the sport like work at the mini golf place in Austin.
Yeah.
You know,
what do you think like the biggest guys in BMX? What do those guys make a year? What do you think?
I mean, I kind of know. I don't really want to like put them on the spot like that, but it's
all right.
definitely
I'm saying
a generous.
Because obviously, the more sponsors you have, like when you get to the top of the top, you know, the cream of the crop, right? You can get those other big sponsors, those outside sponsorship. That's where I've always heard that's where the money is. But like from, say, if you have like a frame sponsor, a component sponsor, like from BMX core BMX brands, like what are like the top dogs making? Is it like 50 grand a year? Is it like 20? Is it 100? Like.
I mean, it depends on who you are. You know?
Yeah, it really just depends. Do most of these guys have are agents pretty standard for like these high level pros?
If you're having like energy drink sponsors and shoe sponsors, an agent is pretty standard.
Okay.
I never really got to that point, but like I know, so like frame and parts sponsors are typically between like 500 and 1,500 a month.
Okay.
That's like pretty average. There's obviously like higher, and then there's dudes who like aren't getting paid at all. But once you get into like the energy drink sponsors, that's where like the money is. And especially if you're like one of these park riders who like rides all like the feast competitions or is going like trying to get into the Olympics or like riding the Red Bull events. Usually how energy drink sponsors work is they give you like a base salary. I know somebody whose base salary is like 40,000 a year, but then every time they podium, it's like first place, you get a bonus of like 20 grand.
Okay.
Or second place is a bonus of 15, third is 10, you know? So if you're like wearing the energy drink and you're on the podium and like getting the fame of being on the podium, that's where the money comes, you know?
Okay. I heard back in the day that like Red Bull would like match prize or whatever. But, you know,
yeah, I've heard that too, but usually like now it's just like a bonus, you know?
So if you're saying if someone let's forget the energy drinks and the outside brands. If say you're just a really good BMX rider and you have a frame and parts sponsor and you're on that higher tier, if you're at that $1,500 a month and you have a frame and you're talking about you can make $3,000 a month, which is like 36 grand a year. If you're like a top dog, but not like into corporate sponsorships.
Yeah, I would say,
and no health insurance.
Like one of. And no health insurance.
That's the thing that's always freaks. I'm like these. Like it's like when you sit down and you do the math, you're like, because like I was pretty close with Tony Hamlin, and like he would tell me the numbers he made, and I'm like, he's making a living off of BMX. That's cool. But also then I'm like, man, like all that riding, all that risk, like
yeah,
and you don't have health insurance.
If you look at it that way, it becomes less.
Yeah. Like in a lot of ways, it's in a lot of ways the content creation YouTube route seems like way smarter because you can make similar or more money. You could be more independent, and you don't have to have as much risk on your body. Because if you're like amazing at riding, you can do really well with core BMX. But if you're just like someone on their trajectory of learning, that's like engaging content for anyone really.
Yeah, I mean, just look at Nigel. Everybody hates on Nigel, but I'm like, dude, he's the one who's doing it.
Yeah, they're mad because he's making more money doing less. They're mad because he's smarter because he hacked the system, dude.
I know
he did that,
I mean, if all you're after is like money, then you're in the wrong sport. Okay. But if you're after having a good time on your bike, going on cool trips, seeing places that you probably would never see without this sport, like absolutely go for it, but like to get to the point where BMX is your sole income stream is extremely difficult, and you have to be like one of the top names in the sport for like consistently for a long time if you want to get to that point where you're making enough to live or to pay a mortgage.
Yeah. How many? Okay, you can define it however you want to define a good living, air quotes. How many people in the bike industry are making a good living? And this can include, people that just work in the bike industry, not just pro riders. Is it 4? Is it 100? How many people out there are just
I have no idea. I bet the people who work at the bike companies are doing way better than 80% of the riders.
Yeah, I don't know. I know it's super subjective because where you live really dictates how far money goes and how you spend money and everything. But like,
yeah,
I always figured there was probably like a dozen people in BMX that were making making good money.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely more than that. I mean, you look at all the dudes who are riding for like Red Bull or Monster Energy, and they're always competing and podiuming, and like those dudes are killing it,
Yeah,
but
that's work.
Or
though,
like,
dude.
that is work.
Dude, if you're doing that contest circuit, man, you got to be on a grind. You got to have you better be like, it's just everything. Like you have a regiment. You can't be partying. Like that's like actually an athlete at that point.
Oh yeah. And then like even just getting to that point, like getting to the point where you're doing well at the contest is you have to go to the contest, and who's paying to go to the contest, like are you going to pay to go to China and then the next week go to Saudi Arabia? And, like you can't do that if you have a job.
You probably need like work visas too or something.
Yeah. Like it's really, I look at that and I'm like, man, those guys are like all or nothing, Oh,
100%, dude. And coming from the street world where I rode, it was like the contest riders. That's lame, It's like, but those dudes are doing it. They were always doing it, It's a whole nother animal there. That cat I'm talking about. That's an animal.
I'm surprised the other one hasn't shown up yet.
All right. Well, that was a fun little trip down the. Is there anything you'd like to add about your tenure as a professional or amateur professional BMX rider?
Yeah. Try not to get burnt out. Like if it's burning you out, just take a break. Come back to it, because that was my biggest issue. Is I was just getting burnt out and wasn't riding that often, and I probably took like 2 months off and was all salty and and then started riding again and like forgetting about trying to film clips and forgetting about Instagram, and I like got back to just enjoying it for what it is and enjoying riding and spending time with friends, you know?
That's great. Bikes are great. I at one
Bikes
point
are
was
great.
super burnt out on BMX, the subculture. But I've always loved biking, the activity, like
Oh yeah.
the people that ride and are passionate about riding, but don't care about the politics and all the nonsense in the ride. Those people are always super refreshing. And
Yeah, that is the best thing to be in the sport, is to just enjoy it for what it is, enjoy all the relationships and friendships and adrenaline that you get from it.
there's like a whole network of people around the country who are like these quiet cornerstones of these scenes. The guy that, like Paul Rad in Cleveland or whatever, or probably myself here in Rochester, where like if you're in town and you're visiting, it's like, yo, message that guy. He'll tell you where the spots are. He'll tell you where the cool bar is. He'll tell you where the good burrito spot is. He'll like, what do you need? Oh, yeah, he'll know. There's these people all over the country, and they don't, because they're usually not like spotlight people, but those are the people that really like keep the scene going. When I see people from out of town, I'm like, where are you from? What are you doing? Where you want to go? What do you want to do? What do you want? Oh, Mexican food? Okay, like whatever it is, like you hook them up, because I traveled all over, and a lot of times we traveled and rode, just parked our car wherever and just aimlessly rode around a city with no cell phone or internet access or anything back in the day, which is mind boggling. And when you came across people back then, they became lifelong friends. And you just want to be that guy for someone else when they're visiting your city,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Be that guy.
Be that guy. Yeah. Don't be too
that
cool
guy.
for that guy. All right. Well, that was great. That worked out pretty good. We're right about the 1 hour mark, right at our halfway point. If you're still down for 2 hours.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a little sip of water here. This isn't an ad placement, but I do want to take a second to thank Element. Element I've followed this brand for a long time, and I was one of their first dealers, and they just regularly just send me shit without like a box just shows up, and I'm like, what is this? Oh, cool. This brand is awesome. And this is their new flavor, lemonade salt. It literally came in the mail today. I didn't expect it. New flavor. Didn't even know it was coming. My wife did, though. She's like, I got the email.
That's like electrolytes and stuff, right?
Yeah. Their whole shtick is that it's like no dodgy ingredients. It's just salt, potassium, and magnesium. But they did get into some nonsense, because there was something in the ingredients. They said they wasn't in the ingredients and blah, blah, blah. But I don't care for the politics. But so shout out to Element. I think I'm going to be sponsored by them one day. So they sent me 200 sample packs for Wrench Fest. 200.
Oh,
it's crazy.
God.
I try to give it away. I've been giving away nonstop. I only given away maybe 120 of the packs. It's crazy. So shout out Element. All right. Here's a little halfway point here. I just wanted to kind of briefly at our halfway point here. You're a welder. That's what you're doing these days. So I just was going to touch on just like the welding stuff and just like the tariffs in American manufacturing. And you mentioned something pre-show about that. So I do think, as far as most manufacturing sectors go in the United States, all the metal manufacturing is something that I think America still kind of has and could easily be ramped up to where perhaps other industries could not. But you've recently started a metal business, right? Like, has this affected you at all? Or are costs changing for your metal, or like what's the deal?
I started. It's called Weld ATX. I'm just like a custom metal fabrication shop. But I started probably a year ago, and have just been like slowly working up like a client list and getting repeat customers, like doing work for different companies, and I think that the tariffs are great. Okay.
Wait, hold on. So, let me just turn my hat around here.
And I won't get into like politics or anything, but I think that trying to like bring the manufacturing back here is awesome, and it's going to be beneficial for everybody. I mean, especially me, because that's what I do, you know.
Yeah.
But the prices of steel have definitely gone up, you know. But instead of like paying like another country to produce our steel, what they're doing is they're starting to like give more funding to like all the steel plants here in America. And like, I mean, I talk to like all the other welders around town and like all the steel suppliers, and they're all like, yeah, this is going to be great in like a year, you know. It's just going to be a little bit more expensive for right now. And honestly, it's helped my business, because people, like all my clients all have jobs, and they're like, and that they need to get done. And they're coming to me now because they're like, we don't know what the price is going to be later, so we want to get all this work done right now. So it's like when the tariffs were announced, I had like a flood of work that I had to do, and I'm still doing now, and it keeps going, you know.
When you say jobs, you know, this welding, metal fabrication, just for the listeners, what types of things are you fabricating, like generally?
I do some residential stuff, so like railings and gates and arbors and things like that, like for just random people who want something for their home. That's probably like 20 or 30% of what I do, and then the rest is for like other companies that have like a need for like a product, but like they have orders. So I'm describing this terribly, but like right now I'm building like these curved staircases for a virtual batting cage place. So I built like all of their curved staircases for their one facility, and now they're opening up a new facility, and they're having me build all the curved staircases for the new facility. Or there was a company that I did work with who was building batteries, and they needed like custom racks to put the batteries on. So I was the guy who they come to build all the racks for
just
these batteries.
Random fabrication jobs. Hey, can you make this?
Yeah.
And you say, I can sure try. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So the steel, you probably go to some sort of steel distributor, steel depot or something. Where does most of the steel come from? Do they tell you country of origin? Is it all American steel? American steel? Steel?
See, I don't really know. I mean, just looking at like the prices at the suppliers that I've been to, it seems like most of it is coming from out of the country. But I mean, there's definitely like a large steel manufacturer in America. There's like a bunch of them.
It used to be one of the biggest industries in this country.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a few shops. I don't know if you've heard of like Send Cut Send, but basically you can send them like DXF files of a drawing, and they are just a laser cutter, and they can cut out shapes and send them to you, or cut out shapes and bend them. But their prices haven't changed at all because they've used American steel the whole time, you know. So it just depends on where you go and who you get it from, but I would say it's like half and half.
Last or 2 weeks ago, I had a big stack of wood here. We were rebuilding the half pipe, and someone was at the shop, and they were saying something about the tariffs, and like, oh, good thing you bought all that lumber before the prices go up. And I like looked at it and like stamped on it right beside it. It's like, well, it says right there it's made in America, so I don't know if the prices change, you know.
Yeah, I think the price of lumber is actually going down right now, right?
So yeah, I have a couple thoughts on this. Like one is just from a national security standpoint. Like we need to have some level of manufacturing here, just in case there's ever a global conflict. If China makes all our stuff and then we go to war with China, it's like that's probably a problem. And the inner workings of that problem are beyond my intelligence. But like, you know, we need to have like a food system and steel and lumber and all those things that we can, do what we got to do, The second thought I've had on this is that in economics, there's this term called externalities, right? Externalities are these like costs that aren't monetary, but there's these just external costs, right? And so generally, when you're getting a product that's made in China, the external cost there is one, those facilities are hiring people for extraordinarily low wages, so part of that cost is, the exploitation of that worker, at least relative to American wages. And the other thing is that they have much less stringent policies around pollution in China. So it's like they're probably making that product in a less green way and compensating that worker less than you would here, and then we just get to reap the benefits of those externalities, right? Because if a company was just dumping waste into a river and then all of a sudden they had to bear the cost of remediating that, then that cost would be put onto the product and onto us eventually.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like too, like when we started outsourcing all of our stuff to these different countries was kind of like at the same time where all of this new technology was coming, and like all of these new systems of manufacturing and like CNC and automated like robots, and like here in America, we kind of just let everybody else do that and kind of it slowed our manufacturing, and then everybody else like got the jump start and was able to like implement all of these processes because they were basically doing it as this technology was coming out, and like their facilities are just so much more equipped to like handle higher production volumes than us, because we're just like we're in the freaking Stone Age, and they have iPhones,
Yeah. The scooter vault, it's like the dance comp of scootering.
Yeah, I think so.
So the guy that owns that did this video about the tariffs, and it was like a really, really well produced video. It's like nice camera, well lit. He's sitting there. Like, I don't know if all their content is this good because I'm not really keeping up with scooter content. And he does this whole video talking about the tariffs, and like it was straight up fear porn. It was just like,
Really?
Dude, it was like, you better, like, if you want scooter parts, you better go buy them now, because in a couple months there's going to be nothing on any of the shelves. No one's going to have anything. I don't know of a single scooter company that even has a container on the water right now. And then he starts pulling numbers out of thin air. He's like, let's look at this product, this scooter company X, and then all of a sudden, because of tariff, it costs this, and then when it goes to the distributor, it goes to that, and then it goes to that. And so now this scooter that used to cost $200 costs you now $800. And I was like, this math makes no sense. And I go into the comments, and someone right away, the first comment's like, where the hell are you pulling these numbers from? And he's like, well, I just made them up to prove an example. And I was like,
you can't do that.
Like, you can't take a 25% tariff or whatever, 40, whatever it ends up being, and make the product go 4x. It doesn't work like that.
I know. But I don't know. I just think it's gonna benefit us in the long run, and there might be like a period where stuff is a little bit more expensive. But.
Well, it's certainly going to be there's certainly going to be bumps in the road. If we want to like, Austin Johns is in the chat. There's certainly going to be bumps on the road, but yeah, I would agree with you. My last point on this, and we can move on, and this is coming from my head. This has not come from anything I listened to or read. This is completely my own idea here. Okay. I think that AI is going to really remove humans from a lot of manufacturing with robots and all these AI integrations, right? And what would happen then is you're going to see income disparity get even larger because now you have no employees in these factories, and then the people who run you will have skilled technicians and machinists and software writers to run the machines and the robots and whatever, but the people, just the laborers, will be gone. So then you'll have a couple high-paying jobs and then a couple people at the top running the company making a lot of money, which would exacerbate that rich-poor gap, right? That's going to happen. So I think it would be really wise for us to try to get as much manufacturing back to America before that happens, because at least when that inevitably happens, that would be American GDP, not Chinese GDP, because it's going to happen either way. And that's all I have to say about that.
I see where you're coming from.
You're mopping up what I'm spilling?
I think there's always going to be a need for like, because a robot can't wire a house or fabricate an intricate piece that needs to be welded and square and has to be manipulated on the, like a robot can't do that. So I feel like there's always going to be
of course,
a need.
I'm talking about basically everything inside a fucking Target is what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Just
I mean, honestly though, like look what happened with Walmart. They like replaced all their checkouts with the self checkouts and like got rid of all those employees. And then everybody was just stealing everything and they lost like $1 billion.
Well, is what it is. We have a question from the live chat coming from Mark, from Prince. He asked, and this question is to both of us, what is your most memorable day you've had on a bicycle? And I'm going to just assume he means like positive, because my most memorable day are probably bad days, but what was your most positive, memorable day you've had on your bicycle?
I know it immediately, and it was Mexico City, the Vans BMX Pro Cup in Mexico. The bowl that it was at, just to give you some backstory, basically the government put up a bunch of money to build this bowl, like this awesome skate park, and then what I was told from like the people who were running the event was that the cartel stole the money from the government, built a shittier skate park, and then like pocketed the rest of the cash. So this skate park was rough, like all the transitions were bumpy, and like every place you aired a quarter, you were airing a different quarter, like here, and then it was a completely different quarter a foot to the left, and like the whole vibe at that contest was like, man, the skate park sucks, but we're having a good time, So anyway, it was like, I think it was semifinals of the Pro Cup, and there was this big transfer. So they built like a wooden box jump in the middle of the skate park, and then like it was kind of a hip, and then from like the lip of the box, it was maybe 25 or 30 feet, kind of a left hip. There was like a little waterfall into the deep end of the bowl. And I was jumping it, and I think I tuck no handed it. And I remember I dropped in. It was like my last run in semifinals, and the first two runs that I did like weren't that good. So I dropped in. I'm going as fast as I can at this gap, and like up the lip, it was like backflip. Like I just like decided to do it off the lip and fucking landed it. And like I like went crazy because I was like, holy shit, I just landed it, And like there was probably like 10,000 people in like the stands and around the skate park, and like everybody on the deck like was just like going crazy, like I lost it. I just like ended my run after that. It was like the first jump I did, and I get back up onto the I'm done. That was it. And I get back onto the deck, and it was I forget exactly who it was, but it was like Kevin Peraza and like all those dudes who were like at those contests like lifted me up, and like everybody was like so hyped. And that's probably like my most memorable like experience on a bike is just doing something so scary and just like just nailing it, and then everybody is like, yeah, I gotta, man, I don't know if you can like pull up a clip, but that
I could have prepared ahead of time for that, but that's crazy. I don't think I have any story that's quite as good as that.
Yeah, what is your story?
I don't know.
I'll
I've just spent so many years of my life just doing nothing but ride bikes, and I can't. Also, like, I've hit my head a lot of times. I also drank a little bit, so like a lot of my BMX years really kind of like blur together.
Yeah,
and even like so many trips to the same places, it's like hard to separate what trips were with which people and whatever. But like, there's definitely like, I spent so many years in my like late teens and early 20s just going up and down the East Coast, just hitting every single city. And like, it's crazy. We just like sleep in the car or sleep on the street or sleep at a random person's house. And like I said before, like none of us had a cell phone. This is like 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, like all through there. And it was just like, drive to the city, literally just follow the I-90 to Baltimore or to Richmond or whatever, drive around, find a free parking spot, remember where we parked, and just ride around the city. I remember the first time I went to Richmond, there were so many really cool spots around Richmond, and like the contrast that, like when we went to Charlotte, we found literally nothing to ride in Charlotte. But just like, so for me, it was probably like maybe the first time I rode downtown Baltimore or Richmond, just like the memories of just like aimlessly pedaling around. Which sounds so crazy now to think like I was just like 17, just pedaling around a random city with, I knew my home phone number,
Yeah.
It's like
I mean, I don't think it has to be like one specific moment, Like there's like times on your bike where you just feel so good and like you're around people who are awesome and it's just like the best time,
I just did so much of that. I was with my best friends and we were just riding and filming, and like, it's like I had my best memorable day, 150 times. Like it was all good.
Oh yeah.
It was all good for so long,
Oh yeah.
And I moved here.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah. All right.
Trying to find this picture.
What was that? Oh, the picture of you?
Trying to find this. Yeah, I'll hold it up for the screen. But
I mean, I had one. I didn't ride in a lot of contests, but I rode in like maybe 2 or 3 contests, and the one day I rode in a contest I was like completely on, but it was like a skate park contest, and I was doing street stuff, so the judges didn't really care. And I mean, I did like all of my stuff. It was so good. And then in the best trick contest, I did like some Dave thing on like a 5-foot double coping spine, like something like, like over disaster, over pegs, back over fakie or something, like second or third try. And like I lost to some dude, did a double whip, and I was like, that's bullshit. I was like, that's totally bullshit,
My trick was way harder.
yeah, totally.
That's true though. I mean, I'm not like a hater on all the quad whips and triple bars, but I mean, there's so many people who can do that stuff, and it's just like it doesn't have any style. Like I would rather see somebody do like a big slow whip over a box than try and fit 4.
Like a Chris Doyle whip.
Oh my god, yeah. Here,
I've always been a less is more. Like I'd rather see. Oh, here we go.
Can you see it?
Not really. Oh, that's the backflip.
Yeah, the backflip. But anyway.
Yeah, I would love to see like a really good steezy like foot jam rather than like some foot jam dancing. Like just like that's why I always liked. I love Chase Hawk and Chase DeHart and Dan Foley and the Corey Walsh. Like these riders who do less, but they just do it so well.
Yeah. Hold on, I think my cat is stuck on the thing. I have to help her.
Your cat is stuck. Okay, hold on. I gotta check something else too. Give me 10 seconds.
You're okay.
Oh, is this
It's a
the other
Skeeter.
cat?
Yeah, she's angry.
That's funny.
She had her
Okay.
claw stuck in the thing.
All right. Let's go. We're going to talk a little bit about the early days of BFS and Rochester. Because, I mean, I moved here 12 years ago. How old were you 12 years ago?
10.
You were 10. Okay. Crazy, dude. Dude, like, oh, man. So you were 10, and then, so what, you were like 12 or 13 when I started BFS then?
Yeah, I think I was 13. I can't really
So-
remember that.
What was that time like for you? Growing up at RASP, and then your dad played such a pivotal role. Like this, BFS wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your dad. Like 100%. There's just 0% chance I could have done this without your dad. And I'd
Yeah,
love
he's
to
the
get
man.
him on here one day. But
That'd be cool.
oh my
We
god,
could probably convince him.
your dad. Your dad probably had almost as much impact on me as my actual dad, and my actual dad was awesome. It's just he was very, very, very different than your dad, and it was just like
Yeah.
he's by far the most positive male role model I had ever had, and it's not even close.
Uh-huh.
Like I don't think there's anyone else in my life I would even use that term on. Like everyone needs a Jeff Mucha in their life, and I try to do to people kids at the skate park and Stevie and all these people. I literally try to tell them all the same crap your dad told me.
Yeah, it's funny. Like when I was younger, I'm like, Dad, like, come on, like just being a kid. And now I like look back at like all of the things that he's kind of like taught me and shown me, and I'm like, holy shit, dude! Like, you are the man.
God gave you a gift when you were born of that man. And
I know. I'm so thankful to have like him as my dad, and my mom is freaking awesome who she is too. She's always been like so supportive of everything I've done, and I mean they're freaking awesome.
Yeah, so anyway, the question so what was it like in that transition period? You grew up riding RASP, right? Because if you were 10, 12, RASP, you started riding. Were you 8 when RASP opened or something? 7, like so you must have been at RASP your whole life, right? It must have seemed like forever.
I was at RASP the day it opened. That was one of the. I think I rode Rays a few times before that, but I mean before RASP opened, like we didn't have anything in Rochester to ride, and then. Yeah, I mean, I just started riding RASP, and then me and Tanner like just started pushing each other. And dude, when I found out RASP was closing, it was like the most devastating thing that has like ever happened to me. I think, just because like that's like my whole life, and I was just a young kid, and like I didn't know that BFS was going to be there after it. I just thought it was like the end, So, I mean, when BFS came around and I was like, we started like doing the vlogs and building the skate park. I mean, that was like awesome, because I was old enough to like enjoy it and be able to like, I wasn't just like a little kid that everybody was like, oh, he's just a little kid and he can't do anything. I was like old enough to like be able to help and put some screws in the ramps and,
What a sick experience though to be that age and like help tear an entire skate park apart and rebuild it. Like that's so sick.
Oh, it's so much fun. That was like some of the greatest times that I've ever had, because you're a kid, you have no responsibility, you don't have a job. You're just like going and like helping build your freaking dream,
Yeah.
It's like
That was a crazy time, man.
Yeah.
I
remember when we were like,
dude.
I remember when we were at Cranks trying to move the bowl. And that was like insane.
Were you there when Aaron? We were trying to cut the 8-foot in half, and I was inside the 8-foot with the circular saw trying to cut it, and Aaron was holding it up with the forklift, and then he tried to shift it, and as I cut through, it fell, and I almost got crushed by the ramp. And like, luckily, it just like hit the forklift, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm not dead! Oh my god, I'm not dead!"
Oh my god! I don't think I was there for that one, but maybe I was somewhere else.
Because
in
they
the
wouldn't
building
fit on the
jumping in
truck. Dude, that was crazy. I forgot you were there at Cranks.
Yeah.
We rented that U-Haul, and then Reese's dad came and he brought the two trailer, or no, I think both the trailers were Caleb's dad, Caleb and Bester.
Caleb Bester,
and then,
yeah.
And it was Reese's dad, Scott, who pulled the trailer, and so we had the two trailers in the U-Haul.
Yeah.
Dude, crazy.
And at that same time, me and my dad were taking the foam pit.
Yeah. I don't even remember that. I was just like so busy doing my own thing.
I know.
And that used to be Dave Mirra's foam pit, right?
Yeah. Dude, that's the first thing I tell everybody when they like
Dave
ask
Mirra's
about the ramps. I'm like, dude, that's Dave Mirra's foam pit.
That's so sick.
Yeah.
So you ended up, when you were in San Diego, you were in some of Dennis Anderson's videos, right? And you've done some your own video stuff. Do you think being in my vlogs kind of helped you a bit with that stuff?
Yeah, I think like being on camera when I was younger, I mean, with you and then with like Kink and that, like, I feel like really helped me get past like the fear of like talking on camera or like seeing yourself talk on camera. Cause I know that like freaks a lot of people out. A lot of people think it's weird, but I don't know. It feels pretty comfortable for me.
What's funny about it is if you're bad at talking to the camera, it's cringy. But if you're good at talking to a camera, also cringy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's cringy. I'm pretty open-minded and I don't really care. I think people should do whatever they want to do and feel comfortable doing it. Who gives a shit about haters? Yeah. And
I don't like it, but I'm pretty good at it just because like Parlette was like, man, you're pretty good at making these videos for someone that's so new. And I'm like, bro, I'm not new. I've been making bike videos since 2005, and I must have done like 100 vlogs or something back in 2016. Feels like 100, maybe it was 25. I don't know. It just felt like 100 videos.
Yeah, all the Instagram videos are awesome. You know,
I'm trying. I gotta switch it up a little bit. I'm just like,
oh my god, what did you say the other day? You posted you're like 4 times 6 is 46.
Yeah. I'll tell you, one of my bits in the videos is I intentionally say wrong stuff on purpose. So
yeah.
I was calling a framer square or quick square. I call it a T-square. I know it's not a T-square. You know? So I just start saying wrong math. Like in the video where I was drawing radiuses, I said in the video it's a 7'3" radius, but then when I showed the tape measure drawing it, it was a 7'4" radius, and nobody caught it. It's like I'm like trying to farm engagement in my videos by saying stuff and doing stuff wrong on purpose.
It's freaking genius. I mean, literally, like if you can, anything you can do to get like any type of reaction or like comment or somebody wanting to like give their input into something is like, if you're trying to do the social media thing, that's like what it is, you know?
Dude, based on my comments, you would think there was 500 indoor skate parks in this country, because everyone is telling me that I'm doing it wrong. Every like my coping video, like the first part of the coping video, I say there's a lot of ways to do coping. This is how we're doing it for this project. And then 100, I'm not even joking, like 100 comments telling me to use a hole saw, use a jigsaw. This is the stupidest way to do it. You should do it that way. I was like, okay, all right. It looks like shit, bro. Okay.
Dude, people get so like rage baited
It's so good.
It's
Someone commented on it was like a random skate shop, of course, because it's always a skateboarder. They commented on multiple of my videos today to tell me that when I'm framing the ramps, if I put the studs flat instead of tall, you'd have more surface to screw into. And I was like, dude, that's a terrible idea. Like,
that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
yes, I'm in one of these Facebook groups called Mini Ramp Life, I think, and it's all these people building mini ramps in their backyard. And the way they build it, I was like, if I built a ramp the way these people build their ramps, it would get obliterated. Like, people don't understand how much abuse an indoor skate park gets. It's not like you and your homies skating in your garage, you know? It's like 47 scooter kids and Austin John smashing the crap out of it all the time.
Yeah, I remember I texted you a few weeks ago, and I was like, hey, if you cut it this way, you can get like 6 transitions out of one sheet of plywood. And you're like, dude, that would never survive.
Yeah, probably we wouldn't. I mean, maybe on the jump line if you had it up with on a 4x4, but
yeah,
it's like, dude, someone messaged me or someone commented, and this person said they claimed that they traveled the country building skate parks for Dew Tour and X Games or whatever, and that it was something insane. Like, coping is supposed to be out 3/16, not 1/4 inch. And then he's like, you layer ramps in 2 layers of 3/8. And it's like, I didn't even answer. Like, it's like we did that once. We one time we tried to do the rollers over here that were terrible. They were horrible. But the 2 layers of 3/8, you can feel it. It's too soft. You can't do it.
Yeah. Do you know who it was?
No, I don't care. The haters, dude. I don't give a shit. That's crazy. If I was doing the content I'm doing now when we first built it, like if I showed them how horrible we just rebuilt the half pipe. Oh my God, dude. The way we put that thing together is like, it's different over here than over there. There's no support wall there. This is a 1/4 inch off from there. Between the coping and the deck on the main part of the mini just to get the coping right and get the deck to be like flush and correct. I'm not joking. I probably spent three or 4 hours on just the deck and the coping trying to get it all like jiving right. And like, and that means I'm like climbing down from the mini ramp, going around behind the counter, under the basement, pulling myself up into the rafters, shimmying it with masonite, coming down, going all the way around. Like, dude, oh my God. Good times.
Doing stuff like that alone just makes it take so much longer. Like, I feel you on that one, because I'm just like a one-man fabrication shop and I don't have a forklift. And some of these projects,
that's tough.
Freaking 300-400 pounds, and I'm like, have to get it on top of the trailer. Yeah. Lift with the back in a jerking, twisting motion.
Yes, exactly.
So I feel you. I feel your pain.
It's all good. It's all good for the engagement.
Yeah.
Do you give me, when we were building this place, you got like what you got any good like epic moments from like, because not a lot of people were in this building when it was just like piles of scrap wood and ramps, and we were just like,
yeah.
What do you got for me?
I don't know,
dude. There's so much, dude.
I know it was hectic. It was hectic in there.
Oh, for sure. I didn't understand that no one else understood it. I was like, why is everyone talking to me like I'm crazy? Like I'm telling them what we're going to do and nobody gets it. And they all think I'm out of my, and it was probably like 5 years later. I was looking back on it. I was like, I realized why everyone thought I was crazy, because that was fucking crazy. Like, why did I think that was going to work?
I mean, we took apart like every single ramp that was in RASP and then added like 30% more ramps to the equation from cranks,
Yeah.
And it was awesome. All just in the building all at once, disassembled, and like it was pretty wild.
Yeah, because I can think in 3-dimensional space. So in my head, I was like, oh, put that there, I'll move that there. Those two will go together. It makes perfect sense to me. I guess other
That's
people...
like are you dyslexic?
extremely dyslexic.
Yeah, me too. That's like a dyslexic thing.
Yeah. That's like the whole thing is like, that's what, there's this great book called The Dyslexic Advantage. And it's all about this. A lot of like entrepreneurs and like big CEOs are dyslexic. So as a dyslexic, you're more of a web thinker than an A to B thinker. And that's why like I make so many typos and spelling errors and syntax errors. And part of the reason that I started doing this shtick where I call tools the wrong thing or say the wrong math is because I do that all the time without realizing it. Like I'll go back and be like, why did I say that? That's not the right word. That's not the, and so now sometimes I do it on purpose and sometimes it just happens because I'm dyslexic and now no one can tell. So I'm just gaslighting everyone, you know? But running a business is perfect for someone who thinks in more web thinking because like there's just things constantly coming up. Like it's like this constant web of, oh, well, this happens and now this happens and blah, 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 blah. And now my life is just absolutely crazy. Because I'm every video a day, podcast every day, trying to outline a podcast, watch my baby during the day. God, dude, it's crazy.
Oh, I got a building BFS memory for you.
Okay.
I remember you put me in charge of like painting the sides of the ramps black.
Okay.
And I was like, man, like this sucks. being like, man, I hate painting. Because I think it was because I wasn't like old enough to be trusted to like put the ramps together. So I was given like all of like the kind of mundane tasks, you know? And I remember being like, man, like I want to build the ramps. I don't want to be painting it like that was so much fun though. Like looking back on it.
Remember when Rob Hovey, who's in the chat right now, he was like really gung-ho on painting the ramps. I remember he came in, he bought like an airbrush or something. He was like, he's going ham, dude. And then like he like mixed it wrong and it jammed up. Or
I remember that. I think I was like my savior. I don't have to paint the ramps anymore.
Were you there when we dropped the giant wall ride from between the box jump and the half pipe? So like there was like
I don't think so.
That wall was huge, right? Because that quarter pipe was like 8 or 9 feet, and then the wall was like 10 more feet, and we just let that thing fall. That was crazy.
Hold on 1 second. My cats are being bad.
Another cat crazy. Oh man! If for anyone in the chat, I mean, a lot of guys in the chat have been around forever, but anyone who's listening to this, if you go to the YouTube channel, the Break Free Skate Park YouTube channel, you go way to the back, you can get all these vlogs from the very, very beginning. Like I am 10 years younger than I am now then, and I'm horrible at talking to the camera, and we kind of document the whole process of starting the skate park, the insurance, and why we're building the ramps this way, and blah, blah, blah. Kevin, who was on the show, was in that. You're in those videos. It was, man, what a time. And I because so much, what's the word here? I appreciate John Bechtold so much because he came to me and he was like, you got to do this vlog thing. And I was like, what the hell's a vlog, you know? And he sat me down and he sent me a link or whatever. He's like, watch this. And it was like one of these YouTubers who ended up being really famous eventually. Casey something or other. And I watched the video and I was
Casey
like,
Neistat.
yeah, him. And I was like, I'm like, what the hell is this? He's like, people love this. And I was like, why? It was like him just like telling a story to the camera and like a few other clips. And it was like him, it was like in a coffee shop or something. And I was like, you know what, John? I trust you. You're young, you're hip, you know what's going on. I will do it. Help me do the first couple videos so I get the idea of how things work, and then I could take it from there. And then the first day we tried to film a vlog in here, it took us like 3 hours because I like was so embarrassed and so shy and couldn't talk to the camera. And he had to leave. He left me staring at the camera so I could try to talk. It was brutal.
All those videos are so good. I recently went back and like watched all the vlogs from like building and like demonstrating how the sections work. You know, they're so funny. They're like, I've loved it. You know,
I'm going to rehash. So the funny thing is, when you did the vlogs, they were longer content, but you were trying to find quirky, funny things to mix in there. Now, when I make these YouTube shorts, Instagram reels, TikToks, whatever you want to call them, it's really similar, except for you can literally take one scene from a vlog, add one quirky joke. There's your video. You're done. That's it. So it's actually much easier than filming the vlogs.
Yeah, I remember the bowl one where we were like describing like no pedaling in the bowl and like one person in the bowl at a time, and like when we said one person in the bowl at a time, like
everyone crashed together.
Yeah, we all dropped in and all crashed in the middle of it.
Dude, epic.
Oh yeah.
Dude. Oh man. Well, that was great. God, I want to go back and watch this. I don't have time to watch any videos, but yeah, like I was saying to everyone in the chat, you can go back and watch those videos. They're awesome. They're just so awesome. I'm gonna try to rehash some of those ideas and like make some short videos breaking down different sections of the park or whatever, because that's always good content.
Yeah.
It's crazy. People are constantly commenting on my stuff and asking all these questions. I'm like, dude, it's all there. Go back in time, watch it all. Go through. You know, this is episode 89. We've done almost 100 podcasts at this point. Like, it's all out there if you want to find it. You know.
Yeah, that's
people
crazy.
send me some DMs like, dude, I've wanted to open a skate park for years. Got any advice? Yeah, don't. Like, they're like, dude, it's like, how do you get money? I was like, that's a you problem, you know? Like, you definitely need the money. Like, jeez. All right. Anything else you want to touch on? I'm pretty good for this episode, honestly. I'm feeling a little tired. This has been a good time.
Hell yeah.
Let me tell you one more. It just popped in my head. I don't know if I ever brought this up on the podcast, but when we went to Cranks, everyone was like, you got to get that box jump, that second box jump, the step-up jump, which is the big jump over here behind the foam pit. And everyone's like, you got to get it. You got to get it. So we got it. And then the funny thing was, when we got it, it was the same lip as the rasp lip. It was the same radius and the same height. Because you know, a lot of times people write, and then when we got it here, I remember being like, holy crap, it's just the same lip, the same height, and same radius. And then all these people were like, no, it's not. No, it's not. And I'm like, dude, I don't really jump stuff, so I don't know. But all I'm saying is, like, we know that radius and that height, and this is written on it, the same radius and same height, you know? Which, for years I've been saying, when it comes to ramps, context really matters. What's before it, what's after it, how wide it is. Like, all these things really affect in your head how a ramp rides. And it could be literally the same ramp, but, you know, it just feels totally different because, you know, put a 6-foot lip in the middle of a parking lot where you have to pedal full speed at it versus putting it in front of a roll-in, right? Totally different experience.
Huge difference.
And the big box jumps are always easier to build than the small ones because the landings. You just think about if you have a 6-foot jump with a little bit like a 1-foot step up, you have a 7-foot landing, and you have all this long run out. If you overshoot that landing by like 2 feet, you still have a ton of landing, right? But if you build a 4-foot box jump with a 5-foot landing and you overshoot the landing by 2 feet, you're basically flat. So small box jumps are much, much harder to build than big box jumps.
Yeah. I like the big roller on the box that's from Cranks.
The big knuckle.
Yeah. I like that.
Our jumps are decent now. When we redid the landings, they're much, much better than they were.
Oh yeah, that the new landing on like the first box is like so good now. You can like actually like land and then like flow into the hip, you know.
Had you been here since we did the other landing too? It's been a while, right? I can't remember the last time you were here.
Other landing. Yeah, I think it's probably been a year at least.
Because we redid the landing of the first jump, and it worked out great. So then we rebuilt the landing of the other jump, almost the exact same landing.
Oh, yeah. I think the last time that I rode it, it was like transition and then went into the bank. You know
Yes,
what I
that
mean?
was the original landing because those were the banks that were up on the
Yeah.
big platform. Yeah, so that landing is just like the other landing. And then next to that, I built a box jump that's exactly the same dimensions as the Resi coming back.
Oh, nice.
And it's okay because there's like a little logistics issue there. When they built that Resi, for some insanely stupid reason, it's all framed with 2x6s all the way to the
Yeah.
floor. So like, I don't know why you wouldn't just frame with 2x6s and once you get to the floor, switch to 2x4s. Because like, I mean, you usually know material costs. How many 2x6 studs across that floor? If those were all 2x4s, you would save hundreds of dollars. Hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
So what
Oh, yeah.
happened was the jump that comes back off the cheater wall is the same lip and deck, and like it's literally the same shape as the Resi landing. But because the floor is framed up with 2x6s, the landing is actually 6 inches smaller than the lip. So the landing kind of
yeah, I
like
see.
sucks. The landing doesn't really catch you well because it's smaller. But I wanted it to be you could roll and hit the foam pit, roll and hit the Resi, and then roll and cut right across, hit the cheater wall, and then so you'd have all 3 jumps right there.
Yeah.
Yes, the best I could do with what I had. So
Hey, anything's
it is.
better than nothing.
hopefully this year we get to the second half of the box jump line, and I want to take out the 2 small ones and put in 1 trick jump and try to copy some Paul Rad berm thing instead of the hip
Yeah,
thing
that'd
that's
be
there
cool.
now. But I've been talking about that for years, so we'll see. But
I'll be home at the end of this month.
oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, so I'll bring the bike.
Yeah, we should hang out. We should meet up. Maybe
Yeah.
we can stay with your parents. Probably. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I think I'll what are the dates? I can't remember.
I'd like to. I'd like to see you and your dad come by with the baby
Yeah.
because I'm a father
Yes,
now.
I know, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
I remember when it first happened and you sent me pictures. I was like, "What?
Yeah.
How is it?"
Incredible. It's the best thing ever. It's truly just a joy in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
Makes me
God,
want to
that's
cry
so
just talking about it. My wife's amazing. My baby's amazing. I don't think there's any possibility it could be any better than it is. So, which is great because everything else in my life is really, really hard right now. So, like, while the baby requires a lot of my time to watch her, it is just super chill. Like we like
Yeah.
wake up, we just play, and I feed her, and then we go. Today we just like went to the park and hung out and played a little disc golf, walked around. Just like it's just like incredible.
That's
should have
freaking
kids.
awesome. I'm so stoked for you guys, and you guys are killing it.
Thanks.
But,
Yeah, hit me up when you
I
get.
see her.
Yeah.
I like when she's like in the BFS clips. She's like the foreman.
What? Someone's commenting. I think it might be Stevie's mom or some skate park mom is commenting on the Facebook, and the video where I did the angle grinder like review. She commented that I wasn't wearing safety glasses and that your inspector would be upset. I was like, that's mad funny. Got this like now it's like a running thing. Someone told me get her a little hard hat. Get her a little hard hat. It'd be so good.
That'd be cool.
It's funny because sometimes like I got to get stuff done, so it's like all right, like I can't use a circular saw around her; she'll probably freak out. But I could do some drilling and stuff. So, you know, it's tough, really tough, man. Like I always wanted to make the skate park last 10 years, and we're at like 8.5 now, right? And my lease gets me right up to about 10 years. So part of me is like, well, don't want to be out, right? But then the other part of me is like, if I close up in 2 years, you know, my daughter will be 2.5, 3. Like, she won't even she won't even remember the skate park existing, right? And the skate park is such a piece of who I am in my life. It would seem weird to just for this chapter to be over and my kid never to really be a part of it, right? So like part of me is like, well, hell, is the goal 20 years now? Like, do I want to do this for another decade? Like it just would be, I just don't want it to be one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, my dad talks about it. He says he used to own a skate park or something, you know, like, I don't know. It's, but at the same time, like, this isn't the most sustainable lifestyle to raise a family, especially if when the kid gets into like the, you know, later years and teenage years. I'm here every single night. I'm here all weekend. Like, she's going to want to have to do things and go places and like, you know, whatever, you know, but it's a topic for another episode, I guess. So hit me up when you're in town. Maybe we could film something or do a video together, or maybe do a podcast live. I don't know, in person. And thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. It's awesome. People kept asking when you were going to come on. People were really pumped that you were coming on. Glad he flew you out here for the episode.
Yeah, he flew me out first class, guys.
Yeah. The live chat was pretty good all night. Austin's still in there. Rob Hovey's in the chat. Like, pretty good. These the podcast is getting good though. We're getting the same people in the chat every week. We're getting some interaction, fan questions. That really makes it all worth it. So thank you guys in the chat. Thank you for everyone who's listening to this in the podcast world later, if you listen to this, or on YouTube or whatever. Thank you. Jayden, do you have any message you want to give to the kids, to the riders, to the parents, to the bikers, the skaters? What do you got for the people?
Just have fun. Support your local skate park. Go ride there. It's really fun. And don't get burnt out. Don't take it too seriously, because in the end, we're all here to have fun, and we're all just trying to progress. So just be a good human and have fun and go to the skate park.
I love it. All right, guys, you know the deal. Comment on the video. It really helps. Share it with a friend. You know, I don't have to say all the bullshit because everyone listens to content. They know, you know the spiel. Blah, 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 blah. If you really want to help us out, Patreon goes a long way. It's the summer months. It's really tough for the skate park. So if you could just grab us, even at like $5 a month, it goes a really, really long way. The whole point of this podcast, on top of like engaging in good conversations and trying to be inspirational and motivational, is that we're trying to drive traffic to our Patreon as a revenue stream to support the skate park. Because the way skate parks are, you got to find all these other revenue streams that bring it back to keep it going. So thank you, Jayden. Thank you, live chat.
Yes,
thank you, all you everyone else out there in the world, and keep grinding. And I'll